This is a short video showing how to evaluate unpaid withholdings in the UAN payroll software. So you have some payroll mistakes that need to be evaluated and resolved. Where do you start? Well, let's take a time out here. You can't start cleaning up payroll at the unpaid withholdings level. Unpaid withholdings are only accurate if the wages and withholding payments posted in UAN are accurate. If you know you are cleaning up a mess, do not start cleaning up payroll with evaluating unpaid withholdings. You need to follow the map for successful payroll cleanup. First, you need a clear understanding of the difference between a post date and a pay period of a wage. Then you need to review and address any old outstanding wage and withholding payment issues. These subjects are addressed in other videos in the Payroll Housekeeping series. Watch those videos first and correct any errors with wage, withholding payments, and pay periods before proceeding to this step: evaluation of your unpaid withholdings. Starting at the wrong point in your cleanup will only cause you to make more mistakes. Follow this cleanup map for success and you will get your payroll back on track. Let me take you to the UAN software and show you how to evaluate your unpaid withholdings. In Training Land, it is December 3rd, and our recommended report for the first level of evaluating unpaid withholdings is the Withholding Summary. We're in Payroll, Reports and Statements, and I choose Withholding Reports. Withholding Summary is my first report on the drop-down list. This report defaults to show you the unpaid withholdings by original post date. Both of these settings can be changed. Under the report name, you find original post date. On the Filters tab is the status setting. If you receive the message that there is no data to report, you have no unpaid withholdings. That simply means that at this point in time in the UAN software, all withholding payments have been posted. But remember, posting a payment in UAN does not make a payment. You still have to follow through and either mail the check or go to the website and make the online payment. If withholdings are listed, they have unpaid amounts. And if you see both state retirement withholdings, which is only OPERS or OP and FPF, and regular withholdings, which are everything except state retirement, you need to print or display a separate report for each type because regular and state retirement withholdings use different dates to establish the monthly liability. If you do not understand the significant difference in the liability date of regular and state retirement withholdings, I recommend you watch the video, What is the Difference Between the Post Date and Pay Period of a Wage? Always use the correct setting for each type to view the accurate unpaid liability. To review regular withholdings, again that's everything except state retirement, I use the original post date setting and then I select everything that is a regular withholding. Notice I have left OPERS and OP and FPF unchecked, and then I'm going to display for our class purposes. The withholding summary defaults to show the unpaid withholdings by the withholding name in the first column, and then the amounts unpaid by prior year, and then the individual months of the current year. As you can see, this report is too large to show in full screen mode. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see the report clearly. Remember, the date in Training Land is December 3rd. At this point in the year, we should see zeros listed under the prior year withholdings column. We do not. There's our first problem to address. If you still have unpaid prior year withholdings, like I do, you need to research those issues and resolve the problems. Now, it would be normal to see prior year withholdings early in January of each new year. It's common to carry over unpaid withholdings from the prior year and pay them early in the new year. But after January, all prior year withholdings really should be paid, and this column should be 0 after that. Moving forward in the monthly columns, I see that in January through the months of May, withholdings have all been paid. This is very good news. Let's scroll to the right and check out June through November. Well, in June, July, and August, I don't have any issues, but notice in September, I have unused credits. Now, credits are either created by voiding a wage that had paid withholdings or by using the wage adjustment utility to refund or swap a withholding from a posted wage. Regardless of how the credits were created, you must follow through to file any required amended reports, and the credits should have been used on the next tax or retirement payments. Credits cannot be left behind like this. They must be managed as required by the individual situations for taxes, state retirement, or miscellaneous withholdings. Moving to October, I see 2 withholdings that are unpaid. The school tax for October should have been paid in November. For it to be unpaid in UAN in December indicates a problem, but I don't know what the problem is yet. I may have made the online payment but failed to post the voucher in UAN. If I haven't done my November bank reconciliation, this may not have come to my attention. It would have cleared the bank but not been posted in UAN. It could also indicate that I failed to pay online the school tax. Before I do anything else, I want to go to the website where I pay the school tax, look at my history of payments, and see if I made the payment. If I did, all I have to do is post the payment in UAN using the same date that I made the online payment. That resolves the problem. If no payment was made for October school tax, I need to pay it immediately, and I'm probably going to owe a penalty. Again, I have to check the website before doing anything else. Our next unpaid item in October is my local tax for Little Village, but it's paid on a quarterly basis. So an October unpaid amount for Little Village does not indicate a problem. Like my example, all withholdings may not be required to be paid on the same schedule at your entity. You may have biweekly, monthly, or quarterly withholding payment requirements within your list of withholdings. You have to know your withholding payment schedules to properly evaluate your unpaid withholdings. So I know in October I have one unpaid problem, the school tax, but the other is simply unpaid because it's not due yet. Now, I do not make online payments from this report. So when it's time to make withholding payments, this is not where I go. Many clients make mistakes using this method, and it leads to mistakes like this. I left the federal supplemental off the federal tax payment. You can see that the federal supplemental is not grouped with the Medicare and the Social Security and the federal tax. It would be easy to leave it off. But if you post the federal tax payment, all those items are included and you have a correct payment total. So always use this report as it's intended to be used to evaluate the unpaid withholdings, a way to take a quick peek to make sure I haven't forgotten a payment. But when making online payments on schedule for taxes and regular withholdings, use the posted regular withholding electronic payment voucher for the proper amounts to pay online, and then print the information from the school tax report or the local tax report to complete any forms you require for taxable income. And when you make an online payment, always print your confirmation report and staple it with the electronic payment voucher from UAN. They should match exactly. However, when making an online payment when it's past due, maybe like our school tax if it hasn't been paid, some agencies automatically charge the late penalty and add it to your payment due. When addressing late penalties, always wait to post the voucher in UAN. You can add it to your withholding payment batch to see what the amount due will be. and then make your online payment. If the online payment contains a penalty, you'll need to delete the batch payment from payroll and follow a different method of payment to include the penalty. Otherwise, you won't reconcile with the bank. The UAN payment must always match the online payment. Last, of course, in our evaluation are my November withholdings. Now remember, it's December 3rd. In Buckeye Township, I'm required to pay all my withholdings except Little Village on a monthly basis. So it's just now time to make those November regular withholding payments. But I'm not going to rush forward and do that right now because I may need to include some prior month credits in that payment. I'm going to do my evaluation first. Now remember, my November payments aren't late. I have a few days to do some research on these old items before moving ahead. I need to take care of these before year end. So I want to make it very clear, you shouldn't be leaving problems until year end. In our examples of Buckeye Township, Brutus has been very remiss. He should have taken care of these problems immediately. Evaluate your unpaid withholdings on a regular basis to make sure you're not leaving problems behind. So from a review of my regular withholdings, I know I have unpaid regular withholdings from a prior year and some problems in earlier month in the current year. We're going to continue our review of unpaid state retirement withholdings and then start researching our old unpaid issues one at a time. I'll close out of this report, and then to view our state retirement unpaid withholdings, I change the date type to pay period end date. And then I only select state retirement and display. When viewing the state retirement withholdings on this report, the structure of the report is the same, but the liability months are based on the pay period end date, just like the OPRS and OP&F monthly reports. The withholding summary defaults to show all unpaid withholdings by withholding name in the first column, and then the amounts unpaid by prior year and the months of the current year. And again, this report is too large to show in full screen mode. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see the report sections clearly. Oh no! I have unpaid OPRS withholdings from a prior year as well. That indicates a serious problem because my OPRS prior year should have been reported and paid early in the current year. This is why you evaluate these on a regular basis. Again, in December, I shouldn't be cleaning up prior year mistakes. This should have been done early in February. Well, at least there aren't any unpaid issues in January through May. Those all indicate everything was paid. Let's scroll to the right and see what our other months reveal. June and July look good, but August, and there's some more credits. In August, I have an employee and employer share of OPRS credit. Again, these credits can only be created by voiding a wage that has already been reported and paid to OPRS, or a wage adjustment withholding refund or withholding swap. So I have posted some kind of correction but failed to follow through with OPRS. In October, I see unpaid OPRS as well. Now this usually means I've posted one or more wages with the wrong pay period. I didn't advance the pay period when I added the wage. Or I could have reported and paid my state retirement before all wages with the correct pay period in that month had been posted. Either way, I have unreported and unpaid state retirement for one or more employees. This is a serious problem. Don't mess around with employees' retirement. Make sure you've properly reported and paid all state retirement amounts. So I have some investigation to do with October. On this report, I can see there is unpaid monthly liability for November, but it's only December 3rd. Looking at this report will not tell me if it's time to report and pay my state retirement for last month. I have to review my pay schedules to see when the last wage with the November ending pay period will be posted before I start my state retirement reports. Let's take a look at my biweekly pay schedule. Let me scroll down and see my next paychecks. Okay, it is December 3rd, so my next biweekly paycheck will be the December 14th check, and it will have a November ending pay period in it. So I can't create and file my OPERS and OP&F reports until after the December 14th wages are posted. That's one of those 3 pay period months. Let's take a look at my monthly pay schedule. Here's my monthly pay schedule, and I'll scroll down. My elected officials will be paid on December 13th for the November pay period. So again, I could not create my OPERS and OP&F reports until after these wages are posted. I have to know my pay schedules in order to know when it's time to create and submit my OPERS and OP&F state retirement reports. So November is unpaid, but there's nothing wrong with that. I do need to investigate that October hanging out there. That might be a wage that should have had a November pay period. I'm going to have to investigate, and I have to look into the August credit and make sure I have filed amended reports with OPERS and request a refund for our overpayment. Again, I only use this report for a quick peek at unpaid withholdings to make sure I haven't left anything behind, like those prior year August and October amounts I see on this report. The withholding summary gives an overview, a look at unpaid withholdings in the month or prior year of liability. It indicates those red flags if an item remains unpaid beyond its due date. But it doesn't provide me any details. If I see a problem, I have to use other reports and physical records to dig deeper to understand what went wrong and what action I need to take. I can't leave these. No one else is going to find and fix these problems. Behind the scenes, I've created a PDF report of the withholding summary so that we can keep track of what we're investigating. In your case, I highly recommend you print these reports and start making notes on them like I'm going to do through this process. So let's start our deeper investigation. As I said, I've created PDF documents for our regular unpaid withholdings and state retirement unpaid withholdings, so you can help me keep track of the issues we've uncovered. You will, as I said, print this report and start making notes on what you find. Let's first take a look at our regular withholding. So I'm going to change that back to original post date. We've got dental insurance that's unpaid from a prior year. So I want to change this to 2017, my one prior year. And if I select the dental insurance and display, here we are on the withholding summary unpaid for 2017. I'm really glad to see that at the beginning of 2017, none of that $216 is still outstanding from an earlier year. So when you're looking at a prior year report and that prior year report's prior year withholdings column is 0, nothing is carried over from an earlier year. If there are numbers in the prior year withholdings form, it may mean you've got problems that are still carrying forward from earlier years. Let's move forward. You can see that all my months are zeros until I get to December. Well, I made it easy, didn't I? The only withholding that is still outstanding is the employee share of dental insurance that was withheld from paychecks dated in December. Let me show you a little more difficult view. If I select everything except OPERS and OP&F, because I'm looking at regular withholdings, then you're going to see a lot more information. Okay, this is the withholding summary unpaid for 2017. Again, all of my withholdings prior year, that would mean any year before 2017, are not problems. That is a 0 column. And as I move forward in the year, I see all these months are good until I get to October, November, and December. Well, remember, my little village is paid quarterly. So this does not indicate necessarily a problem. It's a quarterly payment. I want to draw your attention to the current year withholding total. So at the end of December, as of the 31st, when this year was closed, I had $6,316.38 in unpaid regular withholdings. But on my current year report, all of those items except dental insurance has been paid. So you have to look at both the prior year report and the next year report to see what remains unpaid from what carried over. Try not to get confused. All I know at this point is this is the December of last year's dental insurance employee withholding, but I don't know if this is one employee or everybody. I need to look deeper than what this report can tell me. So let's take a look at another report. I'll minimize this, and on the withholding reports, I'm going to go to withholding history. This is going to show me what was withheld in December of 2017. Here's the withholding history report. It shows me the dental insurance and everybody who had dental insurance withheld each month of the year. And look at that, $216 every month. And we go out in December. So look at that. So now I know this is everybody's dental insurance, not just one person. And the reason I know that is because the unpaid amount is $216 and the entire December dental insurance withholding was $216. So I've answered another question. This is everybody's dental insurance. Now that's going to make it easy because I know if I did not pay the dental insurance bill, they would have canceled the dental insurance. So I know I paid that bill, but I need to prove I paid it. Let's close out of here. I'm going to go to General Reports and Statements, Vendor Payee Reports, and the Vendor Payee Payment Register. I need it for the entire year. And I am going to look for my vendor for dental insurance, the Good Teeth Dental Insurance Company, and I'm going to display that. The key to this report is the column that says payment or receipt type. This column will tell you whether this was paid from accounting or payroll and whether it's a warrant or electronic payment. The key is at the bottom of the report. I can show you that in a minute. I can see that on January 3rd, I posted a CH, that's an accounting electronic payment, to the dental insurance company for $521. Now that doesn't match my employee share, but remember, when paying insurance, I have an employee and an employer share. So I can pull this physical record. You're not going to be able to sit and look at UAN and solve these problems. You're going to dig into your physical records, finding voucher number 10 in my January payments. And there it is. I can see the electronic payment came out of our bank on January 3rd, and it is $521. And that's the full invoice amount due. So I have paid 100% of the employee and employer share of dental insurance. So that solves the first problem. It was paid from accounting. Now let me show you the key at the bottom of this report. This is on the bottom every time you display or print the report, and it will tell you what type it was. This is going to help you determine if a payment has been made from accounting, so the payroll payment is no longer required. This is going to be really important. I think you'll find this report very useful. So we have solved the first problem on our list. I'm going to pull up my list and add a sticky note. Remember, you're going to be printing these and writing the information. So I'll use sticky notes so you can see. All right, paid from accounting can be cleared from payroll. So I'm making notes and I'll take action when I'm finished. Let's move on to our state retirement unpaid withholdings. We had a prior year OPERS in the amount of $38,32.16, and that's the employee and employer share. Remember, from this report, when I'm looking at state retirement, if I posted wages with the wrong pay period, they may be sitting in the wrong liability month. That can't happen with regular withholdings because they're based on the check date. But state retirement, OPERS or OP and FPF, posted with the wrong pay period can throw them in the wrong liability month. You have to check deeper when you're looking at state retirement. These could be January wages posted with the December pay period by accident. I'll have to do far more investigation with state retirement unpaid withholdings than I had to do with the regular withholdings. The first thing I want to know is what month this comes from in a prior year. So I'm going to minimize here. And we're going to close out of that vendor payee report. And remember, I'm in payroll reports and withholding reports. I'm going to choose the withholding summary. And it's going to stay 2017, but I'm looking at state retirement, so I choose pay period end date. And I'm selecting OPRs. And I'll display. Well, here's our unpaid withholding summary as of December 31st, 2017, and I'm very happy to see that the prior year withholding column on the 2017 report is 0. That means that any unpaid withholdings at least had to come from a 2017 posted pay period. I'm going to scroll to the right. And I can see that the only unpaid withholding is December of 2017. But once again, I can't tell from this report if these are wages posted with the wrong pay period that have been left behind unreported. So I have to do a further investigation. Let's take a look at a brand new report that's available in the UAN software. On the Withholding Reports drop-down list, I'm going to choose Withholding Employee Detail Unpaid. And if I leave the year 2017 and December, I need to change this to Pay Period End Date and choose OPRs and Display. This report is new with the 2019.1 release, and it will help you identify unpaid withholding details by employee. So I can see that because I've only selected OPRs, these are the paychecks. Take a look at this. The payment date was January 11th and the pay period was December 1st through 31st. Well, Brutus is our fiscal officer. He's paid once a month at our meeting for last month's pay period. So Brutus's wages are accurate. This is a December pay period. Let me take a look at biweekly employees. Well, December was a 3 paycheck month. I can see that. There's a paycheck dated 12/15, a paycheck dated 12/29, and a paycheck dated 1/12. If I look at the pay periods associated with each check, I can verify by looking at my pay schedule if these pay periods are accurate. And they are. So I didn't post wages with the wrong pay period. Does that mean I didn't report and pay December OPRs? If that's true, I'm going to get a penalty. If I look down at everybody else on this list, all of these unpaids check out. They all belong on the December OPRs report. I still can't tell if this is everything I should have reported or a portion of unreported wages. I need to check further. Let's take a look at my OPRs report. If I go to External Forms and choose OPRs Contributions and choose the year 2017. Now I want you to be careful. Just because there's a report in this batch does not mean it's accurate. It does show me that the amount of employee contributions on this report exactly matches my unpaid employee contributions. I could double check this by clicking the Add button and adding a new December 2017 report and see if I get the same amounts. Those match exactly, so it looks like my full December report was supposed to have an employee share of $1596.74. I'm not going to save the changes for that report. I just wanted to compare. So you can add a new to compare what's in the list, or if there's nothing in the list, to see what should have been reported. I would also go to the OPR's website and see what I reported. Does it match this UAN OPR's report for December? Yes, it does. So I know I reported the full amount of the employee and employer share. So why is my payment unpaid? Well, we're going to look a little further. If I looked on the payments on the OPR's website, I would see a reduced payment. I may be able to tell from the OPR's website why the payment was reduced. And again, my physical records might tell me why that payment was reduced. But let's take a look at that vendor payee report again. General reports and statements, vendor payee reports, and vendor payee payment register. I'm going to mark that for the year, and I want you to be careful. There may be more than one vendor, one for accounting and a different one for payroll. If so, select them individually and display or print that report. I've only got one OPR's vendor. I'm going to display that, and it shows my January 16th payment is made from accounting. Remember, the key is at the bottom. This was an accounting electronic payment, and the amount does not match my report amount of employee and employer share or my unpaid amount. This payment amount matches my online payment on the OPR's website, so that helps. I did post a payment in UAN exactly matching my online payment. Let's dig further. I'm going to show you an accounting report, payment report, payment register detail for the month of January. And remember, I know it's voucher 21, so I can select that and display. I've made it very easy because I created my accounting payment with the details of my report. The employee share, $1596.74, exactly matches my unpaid employee share. The employer is $2235.42. Does that exactly match, or is there a rounding difference? $2235.42 is exactly the same. And it shows that I used an old employer credit from 2011, $505.17, that has been sitting on the OPR's website waiting for me to use. So now we have identified the full amount was reported and the payment was reduced by an old employer credit. It was paid from accounting. I've resolved a second problem, and that's the end of my prior year issues. Let's pull up our report. I'm going to add my sticky note, save my note, and we're going to move on. Let's go back to regular withholdings and scroll forward to our next problem. September is my next month with problems, and it has overpayments, not underpayments. I can tell that because there are negative signs in front of the numbers. As I explained earlier, the credits that appear on this report can only come from two different processes. The first is if you void a wage that already had paid withholdings, and the second is the use of the wage adjustment utility to process a withholding refund or a withholding swap. Those are the only things that could have created the negatives on this report. I suspect that we avoided a paycheck, but I don't know that for sure. And I want to take a look and see if we have the same problem on the state retirement report. I'm going to click on that, and let's scroll forward. Notice that the month of August is where the credits appear on the state retirement report, and September is 0. Well, remember, a paycheck dated in September would have September taxes, and if it had an August pay period end date, it would be August date retirement. So they wouldn't appear in the same month, and so I suspect the same check has caused these problems on both reports. Let's investigate further. If I go to payroll reports and wage reports, I want the wage detail report for the year, but on the filters tab, I can tell the software to show me only the voided paychecks. And I only have one. I made it easy. So if you have multiple voided paychecks, you would have to look at them to determine if one of them has created this problem. I can see from this wage detail, the original paycheck was dated in September and the pay period was August 11th through August 24th. That means the state retirement liability would be August and the liability for regular withholding such as taxes would be September. Let me scroll down to the withholdings. The calculated amount column is helpful but does not show us what withholdings were overpaid. We need a different report. We're going to go over to the Withholding Reports tab. Remember that you get this in Payroll Reports and Statements Withholding Reports. And from the drop-down list, I'm going to choose Withholding Overpayments. There's my list. Select them all and display. Here are all the withholdings and the payment numbers and the employee and employer share and the overpayment date. The overpayment date would indicate the date this wage was voided. When I compare this list to my withholding summary for regular and state retirement, I'm going to see the exact same amounts as negatives. If my withholding overpayments report does not show me all of the credits that are on my withholding summary, I need to look a little further. I'm going to close out of here, and on the withholding reports form, I'm going to select withholding adjustments unpaid. And I'm getting the no data is available for this report. So what this means is I don't have any wage adjustment, withholding refund, or withholding swaps that have created credits. You may find items on this report. I can click OK. All right, I have found what my credits came from. That was that voided check from September. So I'm going to go back to the withholding summary and start making notes. Okay, the 32-cent state tax is going to be very simple. Let me make a note. Because the state tax credit is in the same year, and because when I pay state tax on the Ohio Business Gateway, I simply pay an amount. I don't report taxable income, so I can easily incorporate this credit into my next tax payment. So I'm going to make a note of that. All right, I'm going to use the state tax credit in the next state tax payment on the Ohio Business Gateway. The Medicare and any federal tax payment or Social Security is going to be more difficult. So it's going to depend on where you find the voided payment and what the date is now. Remember, today's date is December 3rd in Training Land, and September was the last quarter. Remember, July, August, and September was the third quarter. By December, I've already filed the third quarter 941 report. What I cannot tell from this report is if this paycheck was voided before I filed the 941 or after I filed the 941. It's going to make a difference, and I have to know what I did. So if the third quarter 941 included a wage that was later voided, I have to file an amended third quarter 941, and to do that I have to get a tax form from the IRS website, the 941X, and complete it for that change. So I'm going to make a note. In my case, the 941 had already been filed, and it included a check that was later voided. So I need to file an amended report. If you void a paycheck that had paid withholdings within the same quarter of the original paycheck date, you're not going to have the same problem I have here. Each situation has to be evaluated based on the quarterly report. In my case, the 941 was filed before the check was voided, and I haven't resolved the problem yet. So let me make a note. Okay, I'm going to file a 941X for the third quarter and request the credit be applied to the next quarter. I'm going to use the credit in my next tax payment. Whatever I file has to be followed through. If I filed those papers and I requested a refund, then I would have to make sure the credit was applied as a refund rather than incorporating into the next payment. Let's move to the next overpayment. And my local tax is very different. So what you have to understand is each one of these withholdings must be managed as the withholding agency requires. None of them can be handled exactly the same. For local taxes, I have to contact the tax department and obtain a local tax amended report and file that for the reduced taxable income and withholding. And it will be up to that local government whether I can apply the credit to my next tax payment or whether I have to request a refund. So I have to call the local tax department, and in my case, they tell me that I file the amended paperwork and then I can use the credit on my next payment. There's a place to put that on the form. So I'll make myself a note. Okay, I'm going to file an amended September local tax report, and on that report, I'm permitted to request the use of the credit on my next tax payment. Now we'll go to the state retirement report so I can explain how I'm going to handle the overpayment for August. Where's my sticky note? Okay, I have to file an amended report. This is December. The report was already filed and then the paycheck was voided afterward. Okay, I'm going to contact OPERS and follow their instructions to file an amended August report removing the voided wage. So that wage detail report is going to be important. It will show me the total wages and the employee and employer share of OPERS that needs to be removed from that report. And then I'm going to file the proper paperwork requesting the refund of the overpayment. Now I'm going to use one example as to how OPERS is going to handle this. This may not be the same in your case. In some cases, OPERS sends a check as a refund for the employee share, and then they give you a credit for the employer share. So I need to be sure through my filings how these overpayments are going to be returned to our entity. Now remember, this is a voided paycheck. This employee did not pay the employee share of $825. It belongs to us, not the employee. If this was a real paycheck that had been reported incorrectly, that would be different. In our case, it's a paycheck that's voided. The employee does not get the $8.25. Once I talk to OPERS and file the proper paperwork, they tell me how they're going to handle this, and I make more notes. OPERS is going to send me a check for $8.25 for the employee refund. Remember, it belongs to the township in this case, not the employee, because the check was voided. And they will give us a credit for the employer share to be used on our next payment. I have to follow through, so I'm just making notes of how to handle these things, and then I can move forward with my investigation. I want to go back to the regular withholding summary and move forward to the next month, October. Now in October, the Little Village unpaid withholding is not a problem. If you remember earlier, I told you that the Little Village income tax is paid quarterly. So October, November, and December will be paid when due. But as I move down, the two school taxes for October are a problem. They should have been paid in November. And according to this report, they have not been paid. But remember, I may have posted an accounting payment, or I may have made the payment online and never posted anything in UAN, and I've been adjusting my bank reconciliation. So the first thing I have to know is, did I make a payment online? Our school taxes are paid on the Ohio Business Gateway. So I have to log into the Ohio Business Gateway first to see if this $147.41 was paid for school tax for the month of October. And on the Ohio Business Gateway, I can see I did not make a school tax payment. I only made the state tax payment. So you do have to investigate other sources than UAN when you see an unpaid withholding in a prior period. If I had found on the Ohio Business Gateway that I made the school tax payment, I would then start investigating whether or not the payment was posted in accounting. So since this payment has not been paid, I need to make the payment now. And since it's late, it may include a late penalty. I'm going to make a note here before moving forward. Okay, here's my notes. The October school tax payment was not made on the Ohio Business Gateway. So I need to print the school tax reports for October and then go to the Ohio Business Gateway, report the school taxes, and then make the payment. I can't print the school tax voucher for October 1st because there may be a penalty added to the online payment. That takes care of all the problems on my regular withholding report. I still have some problems to resolve on my state retirement. Let's go back to that report and move forward. My next state retirement problem appears in the month of October. Remember, this is by pay period end date. I should not, at this point in time, have $100 employee unpaid and $140 employer unpaid OPERS for the month of October. That's a problem. We have a separate video that shows how to identify and correct a pay period that was posted incorrectly on a wage. So I'm not going to repeat that process. I'm simply going to show you another report that would verify that this is a problem. So let's minimize this. And I'm going to go back to withholding reports. I've got that tab open. Remember, we're payroll reports, withholding reports. And from the drop-down list, I'm going to choose the new report, withholding employee detail, unpaid. And remember, this is a state retirement, so I'm going to change to pay period end date. And then it's in the month of October, so I change it to that month. And then I choose only OPERS, and I'll display that. All right, this report gives me the details of the unpaid employee and employer share that appear on the withholding summary. Paycheck voucher, so this is a direct deposit, number 315, 2018, posted 11/16, had the pay period of 10/6 through 10/19. I need to check my biweekly payroll schedule to see if this is the correct pay period for that paycheck date. I have my pay schedule handy. Let me pull that up. And if I look under the paycheck date November 16th, I can see that the pay period that should have been on that wage was October 20th through November 2nd. That is not what I used. Let me go back to that report and show you. 10/6 through 10/19. So when this wage was posted, I didn't advance the pay period. So I know I have identified the wage was posted with the wrong pay period and has not been reported to OPERS. And I'll make a note on my withholding summary. Okay, I've made a note of what I discovered. The wage was posted with the wrong pay period. I'm going to follow the instructions in the video how to correct the pay period of a batch or posted wage, and then my wages will report as required in my case on the November OPERS report. Now, if you're finding that this happened in an earlier month and the month it should have reported in has already been reported, you will need to contact OPERS to see how to supplement that already filed report with this new information and make the payment and possibly a penalty. I have completed my investigation of the unpaid withholdings of both regular and state retirement that appeared in the months that should have already been paid. On the state retirement report, I've got October, August, and then back at the beginning, the prior year withholdings. I've made notes on what I have to do, and I'll follow through with those steps. On my regular withholding report, I have unpaid school tax in October, overpayment credits in September, and then moving backwards, I had unpaid prior year insurance withholdings that had been paid in accounting. Now that I know what needs to be done, I'm going to follow through with every action that is required, whether I have to file amended reports and request refunds and use credits so that these items are cleaned up. Brutus should have never let these mistakes carry on so long. You should be reviewing your unpaid withholdings on a regular basis to make sure nothing has been left behind. I hope you've made note of the various reports that we used for our investigation, and don't forget, You have to use your physical records, and when you make online payments, you have to go to websites and check amounts that were paid in order to completely understand what has gone wrong and then know how to correct the problem. Since we've covered how to evaluate the unpaid withholdings, which is the subject of this video, if you want to see how to resolve these issues now that they've been investigated, watch two separate videos. The first, the proper use of the unpaid withholding clear utility, and the second, managing withholding overpayment credits. They will help you identify the proper method to post your corrections in the UAN software. I hope the information in this video was helpful. If you need assistance with the steps shown in this video, contact UAN support using the information provided on the screen. All UAN Housekeeping Series videos qualify for House Bill 10 training. If you have any questions about self-reporting your training hours, please call or email your question using the contact information you see on the screen now.